Hello. Today I want to talk to you about the concept of growing your business digitally by exploiting the investments that you've made in power already. So in order to put this into context, what we're talking about is the fact that many of our customers today are running mission critical System I and AIX applications that run their business. And these systems, just to put some context to that, we will refer to them as systems of record. A system of record is the equivalent of the critical plumbing that makes everything work. And if that plumbing was to fail, complete supply chains, order to cash processes, manufacturing processes, pharmaceutical processes, and so on, that today are supported by applications running on Power, System I, and AIX. If those were to fail, those organizations might as well simply shut down. And the reason why people run them on Power is that because of their very nature, Power has been able to provide for these customers, many of them, decades of faultless operation. And so Power is an excellent base from which to grow the business and look at all the options that you can have as the world of cloud computing becomes more prevalent and it becomes the way to deliver IT services. So let's talk about that today. And what I want to do is to immediately set the conditions under which cloud will work. And specifically, I am speaking about software that you can enable on your Power systems that turns these Power systems into on-premises clouds running in your data center. So the critical condition in order for this software to work is that you must have attached storage to enable this infrastructure as a service on-premises cloud. Unfortunately, the fact is that many of our smaller customers have internal storage to the server. Unfortunately, that won't work because this software requires shared resources, and when we look at that from the perspective of storage, it has to be attached. So let's expand on this discussion to look at how you can exploit your Power investments even further. And in this scenario, what I'm going to propose to many of our customers is that you may have a Power server and it has a number of cores, but many of our customers are using a fraction of those cores. So what more could you do with your existing investment? And the story is actually quite compelling. As we expand this story, what we propose is that with either additional capacity or with the purchase of a new server, that you enable capabilities to run cloud computing in your premises. And this can be private clouds, or you could be running some of these workloads in the IBM public cloud, which runs Power natively as well. And this becomes very interesting because workloads that have unpredictable capacity demands are best run in a public cloud. But once you understand the consumption of resources with an appropriate amount of certainty, it is better to run it on premises because it is much cheaper and more efficient to run it on hardware that you own. But let's be very clear that whether you run it in your data center or you run it in the IBM public cloud, we are talking about cloud computing. This here becomes a premise for application development. And the reason why you want to do that is because as the world becomes digital, and one of the definitions of becoming a digital business is that you can respond immediately to the marketplace. And by that, I very specifically mean customers, but also critical stakeholders that impact your supply chain, for example. And once we get into that discussion, we start talking about systems of engagement, different from systems of record. A system of record can go on for decades without needing to be updated, as long as it fulfills the needs that it is being used for. However, a system of engagement, on the other hand, because it is a client-facing capability, will change very often. In fact, if you were to look at a lot of the apps that you have on an iPhone, for example, you might note that some of them are changed weekly or sometimes daily. And companies that are able to do that are competing in a digital way and are exploiting the digital economy to its full extent. So that is what I'm talking about. And these capabilities can run on unused capacity that you may already have in your existing installed Power systems, or it can be acquired very inexpensively on a brand new server. And so this discussion is all about why Power. And so as we expand, the critical underpinning is that should you choose to cloud enable your systems on premises, the offering is actually very quick to implement and very inexpensive. And as a result, there is really no limitation in terms of how small you may be. It could be one core, and we can do that, or it can be a global enterprise like many of our customers who are cloud enabling systems. And this technology can be used by the very smallest to the very largest organization. And so as we get into that discussion, one of the aspects that we need to to look at is whether a system of engagement needs data from a system of record to provide a richer experience or more value for the people that you're building the system of engagement for. Very often, you can run the system of engagement independently of the system of record, but there will be times when you might want to pull data from this mission critical application to enhance the functionality of this system of engagement. But because this is a mission critical system, you don't want to be touching it or modifying it. And so the way we solve that problem is by front-ending these systems with APIs or some form of integration, and we can help you with that. We have the software, we have the expertise to do that, and we can do it very quickly. And that way, you can now create an enterprise-grade, mission-critical back-end and front-end that really enhances your digital capabilities. Here, you can have everything that you need to run a digital company without limitations because you are building it on technology built for that. And the evidence is your own experience when you think in terms of these System I applications that have been running your enterprise for potentially decades. They don't fail. So I cannot think of a better endorsement of why you should consider Power for your future computing needs as well. So I hope that gives you a perspective of how you can expand the value. And remember that in particular, if you're a small organization or a medium-sized organization, you too can take full advantage of these technologies. Thank you very much.